The little girl in the yellow raincoat had started without warning. One moment, the skies over downtown Los Angeles were clear. The next, dark clouds rolled in, and water poured down as if the heavens had been waiting to cry for years. Keanu Reeves stood outside the bookstore with a brown paper bag in his hand, holding a worn-out copy of The Velveteen Rabbit. He had bought it for no reason at all. Maybe because it reminded him of something or someone, or maybe because he needed a reason to walk. His mind had been restless again lately. Nights were long, mornings were quiet. The world expected to much and, at the same time, never saw past the surface. He didn't wear sunglasses that day. He didn't try to hide. The rain was good that way. It blurred everything. No one really looked up. Until she did. A little girl. Barefoot. Soaked, wearing a bright yellow raincoat with one torn pocket and a sticker of a faded unicorn clinging to the back. She looked no more than 7. Her dark curls stuck to her forehead, and her cheeks were pink from the cold. Keanu noticed her standing at the end of the street, near a red traffic light, watching him, not blinking, not moving. He looked around. No parents, no umbrella, just her, and the way she clutched a stuffed animal that looked like it had survived too many battles. He took a few steps toward her. The cars continued to roll past slowly. Puddles splashed at his boots, and then, without a word, she walked toward him. She stopped just a few feet away, looked up at him with wide brown eyes. And then she said it. "Follow me home." Her voice was soft, steady, not afraid, not even shy, as if she already knew him, as if she had decided he was safe. Keanu blinked. The paper bag in his hand crinkled. He looked down at her. The girl stood completely still, no hesitation in her face, just something deep and heavy, too heavy for a child. "Where's your home?" he asked quietly. The girl didn't answer. Instead, she turned. And started walking. Keanu stood there for a moment. His heart thudded harder than it should have. Something about her didn't feel ordinary. And so, without knowing why, he followed. They walked in silence through the pouring rain. No one stopped them. No one looked twice. In a city like this, strangers moved side by side all the time. But this wasn't that. Keanu stayed a few steps behind. The little girl didn't turn back once. She led him through narrow alleys, past closed-down bakeries, through a rusted gate that squeaked when it opened, and finally to a long-abandoned building, with cracked windows and vines crawling up its side. She stopped in front of a wooden door. Keanu looked around. The place seemed like it hadn't been lived in for years. "This is home?" he asked. She nodded. Then, before he could ask another question, she pushed the door open and walked inside. Keanu hesitated only for a second. Then followed her in. The inside smelled of dust and forgotten memories. There were old chairs stacked. In the corner, a piano missing 3 keys, scattered books, and a mattress on the floor. On that mattress lay another child. A boy. He was maybe 5, pale, thin. His eyes were shut tight, and his breathing was shallow. Keanu's single quotes' chest tightened. The little girl knelt beside him, gently stroked his hair. "This is my brother," she whispered. "He's sick." Keanu knelt down beside them. His hands were shaking. "Where are your parents?" he asked. The girl looked at him with eyes that had seen more than they should have. "Gone," she said simply. Keanu swallowed. "How long have you been here?" 3 days, she answered. She pulled a half-eaten granola bar from her coat pocket, broke it in half, placed a piece near her brother's mouth. He didn't move. Keanu took a deep breath. He pulled out his phone. No signal. "Do you have a phone? Anyone you know? A neighbor?" The girl shook her head. "They don't like us. They think we're trouble." Keanu's throat tightened. This wasn't a moment for fame. This wasn't a moment to be anything but human. He stood up. "Wait here," he said softly. "Are you coming back?" the girl asked. He looked down at her. Her voice was barely above a whisper now. He nodded. "Yes, I promise." It took him 15 minutes to find help. A small clinic 2 blocks away. He didn't mention his name. He didn't need cameras or attention. He just said there were 2 children alone and one was sick. The nurse followed him without question. Back at the building, the little girl was still sitting beside her brother. Keanu knelt down again. They'll help him now, he said gently. She looked at him. What's your name? She asked. He smiled a little. Keanu. She blinked. Like the movie Man. He chuckled. Double quotes. Yeah. Like the movie Man. She nodded slowly, as if storing that information in some private corner of her mind. My name is Mia. The boy's name was Lucas. He was dehydrated, weak, but the nurse said he would be okay with fluids and rest. Keanu stayed until the ambulance came. He sat with them in the back, holding Mia's hand as they rode to the hospital. The nurse asked questions. Keanu listened quietly. Mia answered what she could. They had been left by their aunt, who was supposed to care for them after their mother passed. But 3 days ago, the aunt left and didn't come back. The electricity had already been cut off. The food had run out. No one checked in. No one cared. So Mia did the only thing she could think of. She walked until she found someone she trusted, and somehow, that someone was him. At the hospital, Keanu waited in the hallway while doctors examined Lucas. Mia sat beside him, her head leaning on his arm. He didn't move. He didn't speak. He just let her rest. When the doctor came out, he said Lucas would need to stay for a few days. Keanu nodded. I'll cover it, he said quietly. The doctor looked at him, hesitated, then nodded in return. That night, Keanu sat outside the hospital room, alone, watching the rain fall through the glass. His phone buzzed. Messages from his agent, offers, scripts, people needing answers. He turned it off just for a while and stared at the hallway. Mia was asleep on a chair, wrapped in a warm blanket the nurse had brought. Lucas was resting inside, attached to monitors and an IV. Keanu felt something shift inside him, something he hadn't felt in years, not since. He closed his eyes, breathed deep, and waited. No one in the hospital recognized him, not the way people usually did. They saw a man helping the children, that was all. And maybe that was enough. The next morning, when Mia woke up, she looked around. Panicked. Until she saw him sitting there. He smiled at her. She ran to him. Hugged him tight and whispered, "Thank you for following me home." He didn't answer, just held her closer, and knew this was only the beginning. Asterisk questions. No one escaped. The hospital hallway was quiet the next morning. The world outside had dried up after the storm, but inside Keanu felt like the rain had followed him. It wasn't falling from the sky now, it was falling inside his chest, quietly, steady, something deep and slow that didn't stop. He hadn't slept. He had spent the night in the chair, head leaning against the white wall, just outside Lucas's hospital room. Nurses came and went. They offered him water, blankets, food. He took none. Mia had slept curled in a chair next to him, wrapped in a blanket that swallowed her small frame. She hadn't stirred once. Keanu watched her. He didn't know why this little girl had chosen him out of all the people in the city, all the faces. He was just a stranger, a man carrying a book in the rain. But maybe that was the point. Maybe the universe didn't always work the way people thought. Maybe pain recognized pain. Maybe something broken inside him had called out to her, and maybe she had heard it. A nurse with kind eyes stepped out of Lucas's room. "He's stable," she said softly, "but still very weak. He needs time." Keanu nodded. "Is he awake?" The nurse shook her head. "Just resting. But we got fluids in him, some warmth. His breathing's better. Can I go in?" She hesitated, then smiled a little. "He seemed to sleep better when you were near, inside the room." Lucas looked even smaller under the hospital blanket. His skin had more color now, but he still looked like a child who hadn't been held in too long. Keanu pulled the chair closer and sat beside him. He didn't say anything, didn't know what to say. He just watched. And then slowly, Lucas opened his eyes. For a moment, the boy looked confused. Then he saw Keanu. His lips moved. Barely a whisper. "Mia?" "She's okay," Keanu said gently. "She's sleeping, right outside." Lucas blinked. His eyes were full of something old, something that had seen too much. "Are you the movie man?" Keanu smiled. "Yeah," he said quietly. "I guess I am." Lucas nodded slowly. Then his small hand reached out. Not to shake, not to grab. Just to make sure someone was really there. Keanu took it. Later that day, Mia sat beside her brother, holding his hand tightly. They didn't talk much. They didn't have to. Keanu stood by the window, watching the two of them. Something in his heart kept twisting. He had been through pain before, had lost people, had stood in cold, empty spaces with too much silence. But this was something different. He was seeing what survival looked like in its rawest form. Not in a movie, not in a script. But in real life. Two kids, left behind, holding each other like the world had forgotten them when a social worker arrived. She brought a folder full of papers and a fake smile. Keanu met her in the hallway. "So you're?" She looked at him with a raised brow. "Just a friend." He said, "Family, no." "Then why are you here?" Keanu looked at her. Long and hard. "Because someone had to be." She blinked. "Right, of course. Well, let's talk." Her name was Jana. She had been working child services for 12 years. She explained that Mia and Lucas had no father listed on record. The mother had passed from illness 6 months ago. The aunt who was given custody had disappeared. "Do you know if the aunt's being looked for?" Keanu asked. Jana shrugged. "We'll check. But honestly, cases like this get buried fast. We're stretched thin. What happens to them? If no guardian steps up, they'll be placed in temporary care, usually a group home first, then maybe foster. How long depends. Sometimes weeks, sometimes years." Keanu looked away. "Can I stay with them?" She gave him a skeptical glance. "You're not family. I can help." "Help how?" Keanu hesitated. He didn't want to throw around his name, didn't want to use fame like a key. "But this wasn't about him. I can provide support, pay for their care, whatever they need." Jana gave a tight smile. "We don't work like that. Rules are rules." Keanu's jaw tightened. Then he said something he hadn't planned. "Then I'll apply for guardianship." The words stunned even him. Jana looked like she'd just heard someone say the earth was flat. "What? Temporary, until we find their aunt, or someone better. I don't want them back on the street." She frowned. "Do you even know these kids?" "I'm learning. This is complicated. We'd have to run checks. There's a process, background, evaluation due. It took hours. Phone calls, forms, identity verifications. Jana didn't believe it at first. But when Keanu Reeves' name came up clean and powerful, suddenly the tone changed. Hospital staff confirmed everything. How he had followed the little girl. Paid for the treatment. Stayed by their side. The social worker called her superior. There were whispers of, "If this gets out, and he's not a threat, and at least they'll be safe." Finally, as night fell again, Jana returned to the hospital room with a sigh. "You'll have to check in weekly. No travel. Nothing legal yet. Just supervised care." Keanu nodded. "That's fine." When he told Mia, her eyes filled with tears. "You mean, we don't have to go?" "No." Keanu said gently. "You'll stay with me, for now." She didn't say anything, just threw her arms around him and held on tight. And for the first time in years, he let someone hold onto him too. That night, Lucas fell asleep while listening to Keanu read from The Velveteen Rabbit. His voice was soft, slow. The same book he had bought in the rain. He hadn't known then. But maybe the book had been waiting, just like Mia had been. They left the hospital 2 days later. The doctor said Lucas was strong enough now, thanks to rest and care. Keanu's home was quiet, warm, filled with books and space. He had never brought strangers there before. But they weren't strangers now. They were family, even if no one had said it out loud. The first night, Lucas asked if there were monsters in the house. Keanu shook his head. Not anymore. And that was enough. 3 days later, everything changed again. Keanu came home from picking up groceries. He walked through the front door and called out, "Mia?" Lucas silenced. His heart jumped. He rushed upstairs. Nothing. No sound. He checked every room. Empty. Panic rose in his chest like fire. Then he saw it. On the kitchen table, a single crayon drawing. It showed a man, a girl in a yellow coat, and a boy with big eyes. They were holding hands. Beneath it was a note in messy handwriting. "We went to find Mommy. Don't be mad." Keanu froze. And then ran. The trail to no hero. Keanu's hands shook as he held the note. His eyes scanned the page again and again, but the words didn't change. We went to find Mommy. Don't be mad. His breath caught in his chest. The air around him felt thin. Outside, the sky had darkened again. Not from rain but from the sinking feeling of dread crawling up his spine. The front door was unlocked. The kids were gone, and they'd been missing long enough for the silence to settle into the walls. He dropped the grocery bag. Fruit rolled across the floor. He didn't care. He grabbed his phone and called the number. Jana, the social worker, had given him no answer. He called the local police to missing children, 7 and 5. Names are Mia and Lucas. They left a note. They're trying to find their mother. She passed away 6 months ago. The woman on the other end asked routine questions. His full name, their last known location, any known relatives. His voice was calm but his heart was cracking in slow, loud thuds. Stay where you are, sir, the officer said. We're dispatching someone to your location. Keanu stared out the front window. No bikes. No footprints. No neighbors outside. Just the emptiness that settles in when something pure disappears. He didn't wait. He couldn't. They were just kids. Alone. Again. He knew Mia. She was brave, but that bravery came from desperation, not safety. And Lucas was still weak, still recovering. Keanu couldn't sit and do nothing. He started where he always did when he had nothing else. He listened to his gut. He checked the security camera footage from the porch. The timestamp showed them leaving just before noon. Mia was holding Lucas's hand. Both wore jackets. Mia had a backpack slung over her shoulders. They looked determined, not afraid. Like they had a mission. He froze the frame, zoomed in. Her eyes were focused. Forward. He whispered to himself, "Where would you go if you believed your mom was still out there?" Keanu sat down with his laptop. He typed in the name of Mia and Lucas's mother, Evelyn Gomez. He found an obituary from 7 months ago. It listed no surviving relatives other than the aunt. But there was one detailed. Burial location, Rosewood Hill Cemetery. It was 10 miles away. Keanu grabbed his jacket and keys. If they were going anywhere to find their mother, it would be there. He drove like the rain was chasing him. The clouds above turned gray again, and the wind howled against the windshield. His fingers gripped the steering wheel tight. At every red light, his mind flashed with worst-case images. Mia lost on a sidewalk. Lucas collapsing in a ditch. No, he wouldn't think that way. He couldn't. They were smart, they were strong, but they were still just kids. And this world could be cruel to the forgotten. The cemetery was quiet. Trees swayed in the wind. Rows of graves stretched across green hills like whispers from the past. Keanu parked and jumped out. His boots sank slightly in the wet grass. He scanned the area. No sign of children. He walked quickly, weaving through stone markers. Then he saw it. A small yellow backpack resting near a grave. He ran. And there they were. Mia was sitting cross-legged beside a headstone, holding Lucas in her arms. Lucas looked tired, pale again, like the walk had drained him. Mia looked up as Keanu approached. Her face crumbled with guilt. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Keanu knelt beside her. He wasn't angry. Not at all. He was shaking. Yes, but it was from relief. He pulled them both into his arms. He could feel Lucas's weak heartbeat against his chest. "Don't ever do that again," he whispered, holding back tears. "You scared me." Mia nodded against his shoulder. I wanted to see her." The gravestone was simple. Evelyn Gomez's beloved mother rests now. Brave heart. A few wildflowers had been placed at its base. Mia had written something on a small piece of cardboard. "We're okay, Mommy. We're not alone anymore." Keanu swallowed hard. He didn't know what love looked like until that moment. Not the kind in movies, not the kind in headlines. But this, a child's promise to her mother, and the man who came back for her when no one else did. They sat there for a while. No words. Just presence. Lucas leaned against Keanu's side, eyes closed. Mia's hand stayed on the headstone. She whispered something under her breath. Keanu didn't ask what. Some things were meant only for heaven to hear. On the drive back, Lucas fell asleep in the back seat. Mia sat quietly in the front. She looked out the window. Keanu glanced at her. "Why didn't you tell me where you were going?" She hugged her knees. "I didn't want you to say no. You thought I would Everyone always says no. Or they just leave. Keanu's heart cracked again. He reached over and gently took her hand. I'm not going anywhere. When they got home, the police had already arrived. 2 officers stood outside with Jana. Jana looked like she hadn't breathed since the call. When she saw Keanu step out with the kids, her eyes welled up. She ran to them, hugged them both tight. You can't disappear like that, she said firmly, but not unkindly. We thought, I know, Mia said. I'm sorry. Keanu explained everything. The note. The cemetery. The mother's grave. How Mia needed closure. How Lucas was safe the whole time. The officers asked a few quiet questions. Then one of them looked at Keanu and said, You kept your promise. That means something. After they left, Jana pulled Keanu aside. They're still technically under child services. This can't happen again. I understand. But she looked at the children through the window. They trust you. Keanu nodded. Double quotes. I trust them too. Then I'll put in the paperwork, she said. Let's make this official. That night, Mia asked Keanu if he believed in angels. He looked at her, thought about everything he'd seen. Everything he hadn't expected. Then he said softly, I do now. She smiled and whispered, I think Mommy sent you. He didn't reply. He just turned off the light and sat by the door. Guarding the night. Because some promises are made without words. Whispers in the waiting. Next morning, sunlight spilled through the windows like a quiet promise. Keanu stood in the kitchen, carefully pouring orange juice into 2 mismatched cups. Lucas was curled up on the couch, wrapped in a soft blanket, his breathing calm and steady. Mia sat at the table, drawing with colored pencils she found in an old drawer. She was sketching a house with a big tree, a dog, and 3 stick figures holding hands. One of them looked suspiciously like him, tall, with long legs and messy hair. He smiled quietly. She didn't notice. She was too focused. For the first time since they'd met, there was no fear in her posture, just stillness, safety, like she had taken off a heavy coat she didn't need anymore. Jana called just after noon. Her voice was brisk, but not cold. The paperwork's being reviewed, she said. But you should expect a visit from someone soon. Part of the process. They need to assess your home, your connection. Make sure you're not just a good headline. Keanu nodded. Even though she couldn't see him, I understand. Don't worry, you're doing fine. Thank you. Before she hung up, her voice softened. Most people would have backed away by now. Maybe I'm not most people. The visit came the next day. A woman named Mrs. Dalton arrived with a clipboard and sharp eyes. Her silver hair was tied neatly, and she wore a coat that looked too formal for Los Angeles weather. She didn't smile much. I'm here to observe, she said simply. She walked through the house slowly, noting everything. She examined the refrigerator, the bookshelves, even the bed sheets. Then she sat down with Keanu at the kitchen table. Tell me why you want to be their guardian. He paused. Then answered in the only way he could. I don't want to be a guardian, he said quietly. I want to be their anchor, someone they can come home to, someone who stays. And what qualifies you? Keanu looked over at Lucas, who was building a tower out of cereal boxes. I listen, he said. I show up. That's more than most have done for them. Mrs. Dalton tapped her pen. You understand this isn't temporary. Nothing real ever is. After an hour of talking, Mrs. Dalton stood. Then she did something unexpected. She walked over to Mia, who was in the corner reading. Hello, Mia, she said gently. Can I ask you something? Mia looked up. Her eyes were wide, but not scared. Sure. Do you like living here? Mia nodded slowly. Do you feel safe? Another nod. Mrs. Dalton crouched down to her level. If you could stay here, would you want to? Mia whispered something so softly, Keanu almost didn't hear it. He came back. Mrs. Dalton blinked. What do you mean? Mia shrugged a little. Everyone leaves. But he came back. Then she reached for Keanu's hand across the room and smiled. That was all. When Mrs. Dalton left, she didn't say much, just shook Keanu's hand firmly. I've seen a lot of cases, she said, but sometimes you just know. The days passed slowly. Lucas grew stronger. Mia grew brighter. Keanu found himself laughing more than he had in years. They had breakfast together. Read books, watched movies under blankets. One night, they built a fort out of couch cushions, and Mia declared at the Reeves castle. Keanu wore a paper crown without complaint. Lucas dubbed himself the dragon. They didn't need much. Just presence, just kindness, just someone who stayed. But peace has a way of being fragile. In one evening, the phone rang again. Keanu answered. It was Jana. And her voice was tight. We found the aunt. Her name was Sandra Gomez. She had resurfaced in Nevada, working at a diner under a different name. Someone had tipped off the agency, and now she was demanding custody. She has a legal claim, Jana said, but it's shaky. She left them, Keanu said, gripping the phone. She abandoned them, I know. But the law isn't always about feelings, it's about proof. What does that mean? It means there will be a hearing. Keanu felt the floor shift under him. When? 3 days. He didn't tell the kids that night. He just sat between them as they watched a cartoon, smiling when they smiled, holding Lucas when he got sleepy. But inside, something burned. He had promised them they were safe. He had promised he wasn't going anywhere. And now someone who left them behind might take them away. He couldn't let that happen. That night, after the kids were asleep, Keanu sat in the living room with a notepad. He made a list. Things to prove. Things to say. Not as an actor. Not as a celebrity. But as someone who had found something real. Someone who had been chosen. Not because of what he had, but because of what he gave. His time. His heart. His home. On the day of the hearing, the courtroom was cold and small. Sandra Gomez sat at one end, arms crossed, eyes full of something sharp. Keanu sat at the other, quiet but unshaken. Mia and Lucas waited outside with Jana. The judge was an older woman with tired eyes. The facts were laid out. Sandra admitted to leaving, but claimed it was a mistake, and said she wasn't thinking straight. She called Keanu a stranger. Keanu didn't argue. When it was his turn, he stood slowly. And spoke from the heart. I didn't ask for them to walk into my life, he said, but they did. And the moment they did, everything changed. They didn't come to me looking for money or fame. They came looking for safety, for someone who would stay. And I stayed, because I saw myself in them, the pain, the silence, the longing. They are not just someone's responsibility, they are someone's future. He looked the judge in the eyes. I am not their blood, but I am their anchor, and I will never let go. The courtroom went silent. The judge asked a few more questions. Then she called for a recess. Keanu stepped into the hallway and found Mia pacing nervously. She ran to him. Did we lose? He knelt down and hugged her. Not yet, he said softly, and maybe not at all. They waited. And waited. In our past. Then the judge returned. Her voice was clear. Firm. Based on all evidence, temporary custody will remain with Mr. Reeves, pending further evaluation. Keanu exhaled slowly. Mia grabbed his hand. Lucas smiled sleepily in Jeanette's arms. The judge added, You've given these children something more valuable than security. You've given them consistency. We need more of that in this world. Sandra was silent, her face unreadable. She left without a word. Keanu didn't watch her go. He was too busy kneeling beside Mia and Lucas, pulling them both into his arms. They weren't going anywhere. Not today. Not ever. That night, Mia asked if they could stay forever. Keanu didn't promise. Not with words. He just turned off the light and stayed by the door, because some promises don't need to be spoken to be kept. The letter on the porch. Weeks passed. The house began to feel less like a place and more like a story. Each room held memories now. The fort in the living room still stood rebuilt every Saturday morning with new rules and silly passwords. The kitchen smelled like pancakes and spilled juice. Lucas had started humming in the mornings. Not songs anyone knew, just little sounds of happiness. Mia drew almost every day. Her drawings were different now. No more shadows, no more empty corners. Her skies had suns in them. Her people had faces. She had started drawing 3 people in every picture now, always together, always smiling, and always him in the middle. Keanu still woke up before dawn. Old habits. He would sit by the window with coffee, watching the streets stay quiet. He wasn't a man who liked noise anymore. Not after what life had taken. Not after years of giving parts. of himself to the world that rarely gave back. But this was something different. This was life sneaking back in through small moments. A laugh, a hug, a little boy falling asleep with his hand curled around his sleeve, and a girl who asked every night, "You're still here, right?" And he'd always whisper, "Yes." Then one morning, something changed again. Keanu opened the front door to grab the newspaper. He saw a small envelope on the doormat. There was no stamp. No return address. Just one word written in shaky handwriting. Mia. His heart sank. He opened it carefully. Inside was a folded piece of lined paper. He read it once. Then again. His jaw clenched. The paper read, "Dear Mia, I'm sorry for everything. I wasn't ready. I couldn't take care of you. But I never stopped loving you. I want to fix things. Can we meet? Please don't tell him. Just you and me. I'll be waiting tomorrow for PM. At the old playground near Baker Street. Love, Aunt Sandra." Keanu stared at the letter for a long time. The morning light suddenly felt cold. He folded the letter, put it in his pocket. And made a decision. He didn't show Mia the note. Not yet. Instead, he sat on the couch with her and asked, "Do you remember your aunt?" Mia looked up, cautious. "Yes, if she came back." "What would you want to ask her?" Mia hesitated, then said quietly, "Why she left." The next day, at exactly 4 p.m., Keanu parked across the street from the old playground. He didn't bring Mia. He brought Jana. She sat in the passenger seat, arms crossed. "You think she'll show?" "I don't know," Keanu said. "But if she does, I want to see what her real intentions are." The playground was mostly abandoned. Paint chipped. Rust creaked on the old swings. Then, 20 minutes later, Sandra arrived. She wore dark sunglasses and kept looking over her shoulder. Keanu got out of the car and walked toward her. She froze. "You weren't supposed to come," she said. "Mia's not here. I just wanted to talk to her. Without me, I didn't think you'd understand." Keanu stood still. His eyes never left hers. "I understand more than you think," he said softly. "But you left them. You let them starve. You disappeared." Sandra's lip trembled. "I was drowning. I couldn't take care of myself, let alone to kids. And now I have a job, a place. I want to make things right. With them, or with your guilt." Sandra didn't answer. Jana stepped forward. "You're not under arrest," she said. "But contacting a child without approval is a violation. There will be a record." Sandra's shoulders sagged. I miss them." Keanu nodded slowly. "Missing them isn't enough," he said. "They need more than words." He took the letter out of his pocket and gave it back to her. "Don't send notes. Send healing. Start with yourself." Then he turned and walked away. Jana followed. They never looked back. That evening, Keanu sat down with Mia. He told her the truth. About the note. About going to meet her aunt. About what he said. Mia didn't speak for a while. Then she looked at him and said, "You didn't let her take me." "No." Keanu said, "I didn't." "Why?" "Because you're not something to be taken. You're someone to be loved." The next day, Mia asked if they could go somewhere. Just the two of them. Keanu said yes. They drove to a nearby hilltop park. It was quiet. They walked until they reached a spot with a view of the city. Mia sat in the grass. She handed him something. A drawing. This time, it wasn't a house or a tree. It was a heart, with 3 names inside. Mia. Lucas. Keanu looked at her. His throat tight. "What's this?" "Our family." That night, Jana called again. "The judge approved it," she said. "It's official now." Keanu stood in the hallway, staring at the photo of the 3 of them taped to the fridge. "What's official?" "You're no longer temporary," Jana said with a smile in her voice. "You're their legal guardian." He walked into the living room. Lucas was asleep. Mia was sitting under a blanket. He sat beside her, put an arm around her shoulders. "You're stuck with me now," he whispered. She giggled. "Good." And for the first time in a long time, KeanuReeves didn't feel like a man carrying broken pieces. He felt like a home. The gift of staying sun had just started to rise. Soft orange light filled the kitchen as Keanu cracked eggs into a pan. He moved slowly, not because he was tired but because mornings had become something sacred now. Behind him, the sound of tiny footsteps padded across the floor. Lucas appeared first, hair messy, eyes still foggy with sleep. Keanu smiled. Hungry, Lucas nodded. Pancakes, Lucas grinned. With chocolate chips, you drive a hard bargain. Soon Mia joined them, carrying her sketchbook, already doodling. She didn't say good morning anymore. She just walked behind Keanu and wrapped her arms around his waist. You okay, kiddo? He asked, setting the spatula down. Better than okay. That morning, they ate breakfast together at the table. No rush. No noise. Just comfort. Just presence. Later that day, Jana stopped by with official papers in hand. She wore a genuine smile, not the tired one social workers usually gave. This is the final file, she said, handing it to Keanu. You're listed as full legal guardian. He flipped through the pages, his name, printed beside theirs. Mia Reeves. Lucas Reeves. He stared at those words. A name was just a name until it meant something. Thank you, he said quietly. Jana looked at the kids playing in the yard. I don't usually say this, she said, but I hope they never leave. Keanu nodded. Double quotes me too. Later that week, they took a small road trip. Nothing big. Just a drive along the coast. Wind in their hair. Music playing low. Mia insisted they stop at every small town bakery they passed. Lucas made up names for the clouds. And Keanu just drove, windows down, smiling like a man who had finally found his road. They stopped at a beach just before sunset. Lucas ran toward the water, squealing as the waves kissed his feet. Mia stood beside Keanu, holding his hand. Do you think Mommy can see us? She asked. Keanu looked at the sky. The sun dipped low, casting everything in gold. I think she never stopped. Mia was quiet for a while. Then she said something he would remember forever. You were the only one who didn't tell me everything was going to be okay. You just made it okay. He looked at her. Heart full. You made me okay too. Weeks passed. Then months. The house filled with school books, drawings, laughter, spilled juice, and the occasional burnt toast. On his birthday, Mia gave Keanu a handmade card that said, Happy birthday to the best maybe dad who became a forever dad. Lucas gave him a rock he had painted with tiny stars. Because you brought the light back, he said. Keanu had to step outside so they wouldn't see him cry. One evening, the three of them sat around a campfire in the backyard. They had roasted marshmallows, told stories. Then Lucas fell asleep in a blanket pile. Mia leaned against Keanu's shoulder. You know, she whispered, when I first saw you that day in the rain, I didn't know why I picked you. And now I do. Why? Because you look like you needed saving too. Keanu closed his eyes. His heart, once fractured, now whole. Maybe we saved each other. The world outside still moved fast. People still whispered his name in airports and shouted for photos at premieres. But none of that mattered now. Because when he came home, two voices always shouted louder than the rest, Dad, and that was enough. And sometimes, late at night, when the house was quiet and the rain began to fall again, Keanu would sit by the window, a warm blanket over his lap, a sketch Mia had drawn taped beside him. 3 people. No labels. No fame. Just love. He'd smile, close his eyes, and whisper, I followed her home, and that's where I found mine too.